I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Sovereign Order of Malta.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, the Sovereign Order of Malta commends the United Nations for calling this important issue to the attention of the General Assembly, and we look forward to the protection of children and young adults faced with the threats of genocide, ethnic cleansing, war crimes and crimes against humanity. Currently, there are at least 27 conflicts raging across our planet, and sadly, whenever conflict erupts, sexual violence is present. Nelson Mandela once said that the true character of society is revealed in how it treats its children. These words are incredibly sobering when reflecting on a 2021 report published by Save the Children, suggesting that 17% of the total 426 million children living in conflict areas, that is 1 in 6, are living near armed groups that perpetuate sexual violence against them. Thus, while we echo calls for prevention to remain an important part and focus for member states to work towards, we must not lose sight of the importance of the support that international organizations continue to provide to victims of wartime sexual assault. The Sovereign Order of Malta stresses that this kind of violence against children and young people is not only a crime that breaks international and natural law, but its impacts are long-term, multifaceted, and complex in resolution. Not that it needs reiterating, but long-term impacts include unwanted, unplanned pregnancies, chronic health conditions, including heart disease, cancer, diabetes, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, eating disorders, and the increased risk of self-harm and all too often suicide. Despite the disproportionate targeting of sexual violence towards young women, it must not be forgotten that males too are targeted, something recognized in Security Council Resolution 2467. Researchers at the National University of Australia have estimated that up to 50% of incarcerated POWs in conflict zones reported some kind of sexual violence either prior to, during, or post-captivity. The use of these weapons against boys and young men has been documented in Bosnia, the DRC, the Central African Republic, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and in the current conflict in the Ukraine. It is near impossible to find an absolute statistic for the number of people who have been assaulted in this way, especially considering the underlying taboo and stigma that is often associated with being a male victim. However, its prevalence is being noted more and more, and an increasing number of research studies paralleling those being undertaken in respect against crimes against women and girls are uncovering a swathe of data supporting the originally anecdotal reports from conflict zones. Males that do not seek help, rather than being given support, often faced ostracism as a consequence of cultural norms and the prevalence of a macho cult, particularly evident during war and civil conflict. They are also at risk of being prosecuted, considering that rape can be regarded as an illegal act and is criminalized in many, many countries. And with these stigmas and the fear of social exclusion and prosecution, it is no wonder that many victims stay silent. As with the plight of women and girls, acts of sexual victimization and aggression often end up with blame being assigned to the victim. It seems fitting that the time to review our R2P and prioritize children and youth comes within 2 months of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, the rights of people with disabilities discussed on this floor at the United Nations. Although progress and fruitful dialogue has been made in these and many other areas, we must question that if we are truly serious about tackling the threats of genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity, then we must prove this by ensuring accountability between nation states, intergovernmental organizations and NGOs in promoting and championing fundamental human rights at an international and government level. The geopolitical landscape that currently prevails is proof that insufficient steps have been made to mitigate these abhorrent crimes against girls, against boys, and against adults. Our own mechanisms at the United Nations are faulty. Shutting down dialogue just because it is uncomfortable is no way for multilateralism to progress. Future generations already face an uncertain future because of our misuse of the Earth's resources. Surely we can begin to try and make amends by acting swiftly in protecting and supporting the next generation in the fight against indiscriminate acts of genocide, ethnic cleansing, and war crimes such as sexual violence. Thank you, Mr. President.